My first guest tonight has an amazing testimony. It is a topic that is rapidly becoming one of the nation's epidemics, and that is teenage addiction, and how she was able to walk through with her son. She wrote a book, matter of fact, Endurance Race of Life and Addiction, that how she was able to overcome. I want you to welcome to the set Lisa Heyer. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate that. Lisa, this is an incredible story. Obviously, this is becoming a national hot topic.
Right.
Tell us how this all kind of got started.
Well, to go back into 2010, before we knew we had a problem, everything was great. My husband and I and our two sons, at the time, 15 and 16, were going on a ski trip, having a good time, family time. That was in December. By February of the following year, in 2010, we ended up having to check him into a mental hospital. Not knowing what was wrong. We thought he was having a mental breakdown. Something was going on. We did not suspect drugs, anything. So he went from everything seemed okay to ending up having to come to Atlanta, to Ridgeview, to get help. They told us he was using pot. I remember at that time we said, well, okay, that's not good, but we can get over that.
Worst.
That's
right,
not,
sure.
you know, it's not going to
big ones, yeah.
Not going to kill him.
Right,
We'll get him off of that and everything will be okay. 8 years later, we're still fighting that same terrible addiction. As he said, doing pot the first day was the best day of his life. In hindsight, it wasn't. It was the beginning of destruction for him.
Right.
Of course, it was for him the gateway that led into more things. By, I think, 18, he was into the pain pills, everything that was passing around town. We're from a small town, North Georgia, in Lafayette, just below Chattanooga, Tennessee. Actually moved there from the Atlanta area, thinking it'd be a great place to raise our kids away from Atlanta and the drugs and crime and all that. It finds you wherever you are.
Right, that's right.
So he went spiraling at age 15, and why he's alive today is by the grace of God. He should be dead or in jail.
Right. And
he got close in both of those many times over the last 8 to 9 years. Went in and out of facilities. I will tell you, as a parent, and I've seen it done different ways, I chose to start digging into anything I could find. I read...
What does that mean, digging anything?
Anything I could find. For one, I always believed in God. There was no question of that. I've always had faith, but I knew nothing about addiction. It's not in my family that I knew of. I'd never grown up in it, experienced it, so I had no knowledge of addiction. So I joined some groups. I didn't even know what AA or NA or Al-Anon or any of those were till I experienced this. But I knew I needed to learn as much as I could as a parent. I grabbed a hold of my faith because that's all I knew.
Right.
And then I tried to gain as much information that I could. I talked to alcoholics. I talked to drug addicts. I sat in those meetings as a parent of one, not as an addict, just to see what they were going through so I could understand. I encourage that for any family going through it.
Sure.
We don't know what to do, and so just like what I learned in my training for an Ironman, that I did not know what to do.
Wait a minute. You just passed by that so easily. You trained for you do Ironman competitions.
Well, I did. Actually, God led me to that, a 70.3 Ironman last year, and showed me the resemblance of training for that at 55 years old and never had done anything like that, and stepping out in faith and with fear of the same things that my son was facing, and stepping out of his addiction and getting help for the first time, and that fear that goes along with it, and the unknowns, and the what you have to do.
So you found correlations between the training for that kind of competition as well as his coming out of the addiction.
Yes.
Wow.
I had to go to the resources for that kind of training. I couldn't just go out and do that, not with what I did. I enjoy running and I enjoy cycling. I had not done any swimming. I know how to swim, but that was it.
Right.
So I had to do a lot of research. I had to see what resources I needed. He needed to do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
He needed to figure out what he needed, what
Right.
resources he could use
Right.
in that. I say some of the resource. For one, I use God as the ultimate resource. He needed to turn to God, and he had lost his faith. I would say over those 8 years, he questioned why God would do something like this if there was a God. Fortunately, he had a background of it that he could have a glimpse from, and he knew we kept saying just surrender, but
Right.
in his mind that didn't work.
Right.
So seeing what we need, connecting with friends, but good friends.
Yeah.
My normal friends weren't going to do this with me.
No.
His normal friends were doing the wrong things with him. So
Right.
I had to find a new set of friends that
wow.
I could train with.
How difficult was that?
For me, not so hard, because my friends that I always had were supporting me in whatever I chose to do.
Sure.
But I had to make new connections. He had to make new connections for different reasons. He couldn't be connected to the old friends because they were his comfort zone. He would stay in that. I couldn't because I would never get off the couch. I'd have fun going to eat and enjoying their company. I wouldn't be on a bike or swimming or things like that.
Sure.
So, and getting a mentor. I needed a mentor, somebody that's done it before, somebody that's been there and says, okay, this worked and that doesn't. He needed that. He needed the confidence that says, look, if I can do it, you can too. So building in that relationship, I say he still needs it. I still need it, but I can also now be that mentor to somebody else, and he can too.
Right.
I will say where in the book I say I lost him to addiction.
Yeah.
I did. I even had to go to a counselor, and I suggest not only does the addict go to counseling and get help, but those family members that are in it, because I didn't know what I was dealing with.
Right.
And the counselor said, you're grieving your son.
Yeah.
Because you look at him and he's not who
Right.
you raised. He's not who you know.
Right. Right.
And that made sense to me.
Sure.
So getting that aspect of it. But he did for almost 9 years. He was in bad situation. You wouldn't, and there's a picture of him in the book that shows when he was at his worst in 2017.
Yeah.
And today, he to me is that symbol of hope.
Right.
I'm hopefully that symbol of hope because our son got through it.
Right.
By the grace and mercy of God, he did. He went to Teen Challenge in North Carolina, Men's Teen Challenge. And that's the other part. It's not instant. Either was my going from deciding to do that event to, okay, now I'm ready to do it. There was a lot of process in there.
Right. And you stayed in this for more than 8 years with him.
Oh, yes. 8.5 years.
And I'm sure there are several times in the midst of all of that you were saying, is this ever going to end? There
were many times, probably most of the time, that you only have a smidgen of hope, and that's what gets you going because you're looking at them and you see no signs of change. The only thing is that, okay, I know what God says. I know that I can have hope in this.
Right.
Prayer can change lives, and I had a resource of people that prayed.
Sure.
Including myself. But yeah, there were many times that I think this is it. He's not going to make it.
What would you say to someone maybe that's watching right now? Maybe that they're intrigued by the very. I mean, just because they're in the middle, they're not on that other side.
They're not on
yet.
The other side. But
so
what
do they do now?
There's hope. But you've got to know what and I write that in the book too, of whether you're enabling, whether you're disabling the activities, or you're just tolerating it. And I saw that in my activities that I was doing, whether my husband, whether he was enabling, whether he was just, and what I say in there is he was just tolerating. He wasn't helping me, he wasn't stopping me, but he tolerated what went into that. As parents or family members of an addict, we want to be careful what we're doing. We want to continue to love them,
Right.
share the love, share the hope, and embrace that. But we've got to let go and let God do His work.
Right.
I try.
Isn't it sometimes the way we love part of the enabling?
Oh, absolutely. And I will say there's, my family is big lovers, but they're also enablers. We want to fix it. You know, we love you so much. What can we do? What can we make it to be better?
Right.
Even if it's giving that $20 because he needs gas or he needs this or he, you know.
Yeah.
You can't do that because we're enabling then the behavior. So we've got to, and we had to get to that point, and it's not an easy point, that we can't do anything.
What point is that? What point are you talking? Get to what point?
The point where you let go of that person and leave it between them and God.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, we, especially those of us that like to control and do things, and I'm one of those. I think that I can fix anything, and I could probably fix you if you give me enough time to do it.
You're right.
But I can't.
Right.
And, you know, you want to fix your children because you want to protect them, but when we finally let go and said, this is yours, and if you go to jail, you go to jail.
Yeah.
If you die from your overdose, it's going to kill us. But we can't change that.
Right.
So we've got to let go. We can't provide for you anything.
Yeah.
Not a home, not a bedroom, not a bed. Not
Right.
a $20 to go get gas.
Yeah. And they'll work on your sympathy, won't they?
Oh, and
You know.
they'll convince you that you're the crazy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be crazy. Why would you do this to your son? And
Right.
what's that like?
How harsh you are, how unloving you are.
Yes, they're very manipulating, and they'll play on your heartstrings, and they know just what to say and do, and that's where I say know what you know, get help from others that have been there, because even though I knew it, it took a while to get into that.
Yeah.
But then we've also got to stop the other family members from doing that too.
Exactly.
And
How do they get your book? Because I'm sure there are so many more insights. We just don't have enough time to go through your entire 8 years. I mean,
Yes.
this is just touching the tip of the iceberg. But how do we get your book?
it's on Amazon. You can do the Endurance Race of Life. You can go to lisahire.com, and that'll have some links on there for you.
Oh, that's great. If you are a parent, or if you have someone that you're trying to work through, maybe I find that it's the hardest battles are not the battles that have to deal with you. It's dealing with someone that's going through a battle that you have.
You're
not at
fighting
the
their
helm.
battle, and you have no control.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I find too many people are overly invested in the other. They're more invested in the other person's deliverance or breaking that addiction than the actual person that's in the addiction. Yeah. And you cannot be more involved or invested.
You can't do more work
and
than
do
they're
more
doing.
than they are. Oh yeah. Well, thank you for being on our program tonight. This is a real blessing. Go find the book, go read the book, and get some encouraging, especially if you are in the situation where you need to just have a point of reference that someone else has actually gone through it. And the key word being through is that it doesn't last always, but you've got a great outcome to this. And because of that great outcome, it'll give you hope. It'll give you resources. Again, she can mentor you through the book. And how she overcame this is also gives you tips on how you can get your son or daughter involved in a program, or what you can do to set the boundaries to actually get them on the road to recovery, how to pray, how to create that network that will help your family recover from the disease of addiction. So this is an incredible. I noticed one of the things in there is that faith is not a feeling.
No, it's not.
I noticed one of the chapters in here is that faith is not a feeling. I love that. Anybody that knows me knows that I love that phrase. Faith is not a feeling, because a lot of times you just don't feel it. Faith and feelings are usually going in opposite directions. Mm-hmm. And so what she's telling us, it is time to have faith in God, not just faith in others.